Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Empyrion Galactic Survival episode 33. It's dawn. It's kind of a nice dawn. It's got powdery, kind of pinkish, orangish hues on the clouds and all over the place. We're not really here to look at the landscape, but I think it's always kind of nice to kind of take a look at it at different times of the day. Don't hate me for it. We're here to look at our ship, which has gotten much bigger since the last episode. That was kind of the goal. I mean, we were talking about that in the last episode, where we had basically just the most basic of frameworks. We had most of the machines spotted in place. We had a place to put them, and that was about it. Oh, we also had the thrusters set up and put in their places. And then after that, it was just a lot of sculpting and kind of making things fit, putting things together in a way that I like the looks of, that kind of thing. And ultimately, brings us to the place that we're at now, where we can take a look at the structure of the ship, where it's basically just unpainted, 98% complete kind of setup. And then the next episode, after we've textured it and painted it and, finished all of the minor details, we can take it out for a rip without having to spend the whole episode looking at all the things that we've made. So in order for this to work, the sun is supposed to be coming up, even though it just got darker in the area around the ship. Is that cloud cover causing that? Cloud's going to be a problem. We're going to hop in the drone, and we're going to take a look around, and if we're not getting a good enough look from the drone, then we'll take a look from our small ship. The drone, of course, does give us this tint over the camera, but other than that, it's pretty workable for what we're doing here, I think. So, as I said, much larger than it was before, much more complete. I see that I've missed upgrading a piece over there. This is the front of the ship, and this is what we were talking about in the last episode, about having a minigun and a plasma turret as close to the front of the ship as we could, and set up in a way that when we're on a planet we can use the minigun turret, and when we're in space we can use the plasma turret, and not have to actually remove the guns and swap them, because that's the only way we were set up to handle it. That's what we've had to do with our other capital ship down there. But this one, we had the opportunity to alternate between the two without having to make any structural changes to the ship. The control seat is buried in this front section as well, but you'll notice there's no glass anywhere. So that's going to be kind of a benefit in terms of protection. These guns are going to be vulnerable, and if we're not careful, they're going to get shot off very quickly and easily. But we don't have to worry about getting shot in the control seat, because it's got a lot of armor around it. I did my best to kind of armor around these guys. You notice you come at them from the side. There's a little bit of armor protection for this one, and slightly less for this guy. But if you're shooting at an installation and you've got a drone attacking you, the hull itself will provide a little bit of extra protection, and without significantly reducing the field of fire that these guys can produce. So that was kind of a success there. In addition to that, now the sun comes up. In addition to that, underneath here you can see I've got a couple of guns. These are pulse lasers. They have the same range on them as the plasma turret up there. The added benefit that we don't have to worry about hopping into a turret in order to make use of these. We can just fire these while we're sitting in the control seat, in the same way that we can fire the the rail guns on our small vessel. It's just press the left mouse button and off they go. This may be a viable substitute for the plasma cannon entirely. We'll see. But for now, I only had enough materials to make 2. Eventually there will be, I think, 4 of these, and they'll all be clustered. So hopefully they'll end up useful in some capacity. We have to build out around these guys. You notice this is very flat on the undersides because it's not done yet. This is one of the sections that's incomplete. I wanted to get these guys in. I just got these guys in the right spots where I was happy with them. So now we're going to finish building around these guys and do all that other stuff. This little bump on the bottom here is the only thing protecting the core of our ship from enemy fire. So we're going to build out around it a little bit more so that we have even more armor coverage. And then this area back here is basically the underside as it's going to be, except for this section here. You see how it's kind of open and it looks incomplete? It's because it's incomplete. We're going to finish this off and kind of hopefully blend it a little bit with these pods that are holding the landing gears. That's all these things are for. It's just pods to hold the landing gears. So we'll get that done as well. That's about it in the front and the middle of this ship that we have to finish or rework, which is kind of a nice spot to be in. We come up around here. I spent a lot of time around the thrusters and trying to make sure that they're adequately protected. And also something that I was happy with the looks of. It's a little bit difficult sometimes to break up the uniformity of certain shapes when you get into the habit of using them. So in this case, one thing I could have done is I could have carried this pattern of the two down and then one, back the other way, all the way across to here. I may still do that. I'm still kind of looking at that and making the decision, but it's good to experiment with things. Even if at first glance I don't really like it, I'll leave it for a little while, and then if I still don't like it, then I know that I don't like it. I definitely don't like it, and we can put something in. Patience, I think, is, for me, one of the really important things to building, is not expecting everything's going to come together exactly the way I want it the first time, and not expecting that I have to like it as soon as I see it in order for it to be a good idea. Sometimes the best way I learn is to find out how I don't like to do it, and then that compels me to move forward and find the ways that I do like it. So this may or may not change this area here, but what I wanted to do is, from a functional standpoint, is I wanted to bring the armor forward past the thruster a bit so that we've got these angles of coverage. You see, if you're kind of shooting here, you can't hit the thruster, and if you're down underneath shooting up, you can't hit the thruster. You get the idea. There's a whole bunch of different angles that you can fire from where you can't directly hit the thruster, and that's where I want it. If you want to go after the thruster, you have to come at it pretty much head on. At this particular point in time, that's not necessarily a big deal, but if this ship was fully weaponized, going head on to try and take out thrusters, or coming from the rear to try and take out the thrusters, maybe not the best idea for you. It's one of those things. You can see here, we've got the downward thrust is all protected as well. You have to be coming from a fairly aggressive downward angle in order to be able to get direct and easy access to these kinds of things to shoot at them. But hopefully these too large over here is enough to handle the downward maneuverability. And then we did a little bit of detailing along here. We're going to actually have to move the drone a second. It's already warning me, of course. We've got a little bit of room here for more weapons along the front in ways that would it would look like they were meant to be in that spot. Like we could put one here, one over there, and then maybe with a tiny rework we could put another one here. So lots of room for weapons, and then room for two more on the back of this sort of central thruster section. And then we're going to come along here on the underside, all along this way, all the craziness. And these are the maneuverability thrusters, and these ones are a lot more exposed than the rest, and the reason for that is because of the position of the forward thrusters, and me wanting to have this sort of thing laid out in a way that if thruster damage were introduced tomorrow, I wouldn't have to worry about logging in and having the entire ship kind of blow itself to pieces with its own thrusters. So same concept for these thrusters here. They're protected from most angles, but again, because these guys have their own sort of thrust cones or whatever you want to call it, not the best coverage for protection, but I don't expect to be having too many things attack me from behind. I don't really expect to be doing a lot of multiplayer. It's just not kind of on my radar. And because of that, I'm thinking in terms of the AI, and the AI isn't going to be smart enough to circle around and try and take out my maneuvering thrusters, I hope. Famous last words. And then up here, it kind of gets a little bit larger up top. You can see right here. We messed up the upgrade. There we go. That's better. Easy fix. Up here is mostly cosmetic detailing, because this area is where we've got the garden, where we're going to be planting all the stuff so that we can have food in the field. We can make our canned vegetables to our heart's content. And that's basically this back section is machines and the upper level for the garden. And then we get to this very back section, which is probably going to get the largest rework so far. We've got a couple guns up top. We've got a couple guns on the bottom, and the same thing with the guns in the bottom. They have a little bit of protection from the sides, but not so much that it kind of severely restricts their field of fire. This shutter door here is going to be swapped for a 3x3. Right now it's a 5x5. You can see it's quite large, and it's primarily for allowing me access into the ship. This is so far the only real viable way for me to get into the ship when I'm on foot. And we've got a ramp here, which we can't actuate with the drone. Let's solve that problem. Come down here. And my jetpack was off. So we've got a ramp that we can come up here. And then with the jetpack, get inside and it closes. I would recommend retracting the ramp before jumping inside, but it's up to you. See, this isn't really intended as a whole people entering area. This lower section where we just came through, sure, but the doors in the back are supposed to be for ships, so that you can dock ships in the back of our capital vessel and have them ready wherever you want to go. I don't think I like this idea of having the two shutter doors on the sides. They're 5x5 doors, just like this one, only of course these ones are straight up and down. I think what's going to work better for me, and we'll head back outside and switch back to the drone just so you can see how everything comes together, is we're going to remove these shutter doors here and we're going to close it in on this side. We may end up doing a complete rework of the aesthetics, or we'll just close it up and see how it looks. You never know. And then we're going to put a new 5x5 shutter door in the back, and that's going to be the primary entrance for ships. And I think that, to me, will look better, work better, and just overall feel better than the current setup that we have with the two side by side. We'll have more room side to side as well in the whole thing if we do it that way than we do with the current setup. And then it's just a matter of going around, making sure that we're happy with the guns, the coverage for the guns. Like I say, most of the extra guns are going to be added into that middle widened section where the thrusters are, because that's going to be the easiest place to put them. And then texture and paint the whole thing, which is going to take a little while. Painting, not so much. It won't take long necessarily to paint a ship of this size, because it's a pretty straightforward process, especially with the drone. But the texturing and getting it right with the textures that I'm happy with in the various different places of the ship is probably going to take a little while. Then, once all that's done, we'll be able to take this behemoth out into the field and try and make a mess of the various different Xenu structures that are scattered all about Omicron, and get some more hard-to-get materials, maybe an epic weapon or two, and get ourselves squared away for our next destination, which I don't know exactly what that will be, but it will be something that we can take this ship to and continue our adventures. So I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to take a look at it now. This is kind of the midway update on the progress of the build. Then in the next episode, it'll be complete. We'll take a quick look around at the ship, what's different between this episode and then we'll go pick on some building with turrets and see who wins. So that's kind of the plan. If you want to be notified when I add the next video, as always, you can subscribe to my channel or follow me on social media. Links for social media are in the information section below the video. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.